This is Lucas Ross Sports, and you're watching our Lucas Ross Sports channel. It's time for my top 4 college football playoff standings after week number 5 of the 2022 college football season. Basically, all these top 4 teams, as you guys know, I picked the best top 4 teams from, the weekend. And this is simply not a prediction. If you look back at my predictions, I had Alabama as number 1. Number 2, I had Ohio State. Number 3, Utah. And then number 4, Georgia. I'm still not giving my hopes up on Utah. And basically, Ohio State and all those top 4 teams can still make the college football playoff. Yes, Utah already has a loss, but I'm still not counting them out. I still think this Utah team is a college football playoff contender. Basically, how this video works, though, this is simply a projection. This is simply a projection, not a prediction. This is simply based off of how the teams played this weekend in week number 5. So let's get right into it here. And this is how the games will be played out. It's in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl and then in the Verbo Fiesta Bowl. These were the semifinal games will be held at. And if you go back to my New Year's Six Bowl, projections, I did not mention the college football playoff standings just yet until this video today. So let's get right into it here with the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. The number 1 overall seed is going to be Alabama. Of course, I had them at number 1 last week. And I think this is an Alabama team that is starting to get better. You're starting them, to see the offense a little bit of a click in. Yes, the Texas game was a little bit of a fluke, but I think this Alabama team has gotten better each and every single week as the last time we saw them. They're coming off a couple blowout wins. Not a blowout basically against Arkansas, but I think they really improved in that game well enough to still be number 1. Let's go to the number 2 seed in the Fiesta Bowl. Who will play in the Fiesta Bowl? That's going to be Ohio State. Ohio State with a very, impressive offensive performance against the Rutgers this past Saturday. I think this Ohio State team is still one of the most dangerous offenses in the country. I think they are better than Alabama's offense, but it just comes down to the national championship if they were to play in that game. But, Ohio State coming off some couple big blowout wins in their matchups over the course of the week, so they got a pretty good, road ahead of them. How will this offense look like? And the defense especially has been better, this season for Ohio State. And now we go to the number 3 seed. Who will play Ohio State in the Fiesta Bowl? We got a new number 3 seed, and that is Michigan. I was really impressed with, Michigan's performance against Iowa. I know they didn't score a lot of points. The score didn't even show it, but Michigan's gotten better in the last couple weeks. We've seen them come off some, close Big Ten wins so far. And I can see this offense starting to click in. The offense was really good in the first 3 weeks, but I knew going into Big Ten play, they would have some challenges along the way. But Michigan, I think, proves to be the number 3 seed. So we got a Big Ten versus Big Ten matchup here in the Fiesta Bowl. Who will play against Alabama in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl if these games were to happen? And that's going to be Georgia. Georgia, obviously, they were number 3 last week, and I dropped them to number 4. Basically, I probably would have gotten with Clemson in this, pick. But I don't really think, it's hard to predict against Georgia. It's really hard to project against Georgia, and I can't really get my hopes up on them either. Georgia, though, obviously, the last couple weeks, they haven't really looked like the team that they were in the first 3 weeks. They were blowing out teams. They blew out Oregon. They blew out South Carolina. They have not looked good in the last couple weeks. I think it's just because of the SEC time, and it's really getting tough. Kent State wasn't an SEC team, but I think you're starting to see this Georgia team, kind of not bring their A game in the last couple weeks. Let's see if they do that this weekend, though, and try to improve on the, offense and defensive side of the ball. Kirby Smart will get it done. I know he can, But let's get right to the predictions here. If these games were to happen, if Alabama versus Georgia was going to happen, I would choose Alabama easily in this one just because of how Alabama played against Arkansas. They pulled in the second half, and hopefully Bryce Young's injury is not really serious for Alabama. So I think Alabama deserves to be, well in the, national championship game if this game were to happen. And now the Ohio State versus Michigan game. Interestingly enough, we have both, conference matchups here in the, the semifinals of the college football playoff. Michigan versus Ohio State, it would be a really good one, but I'm going to say Ohio State gets it done over Michigan here in the semifinal in the Fiesta Bowl. I think both offenses are pretty talented. I mean, it's just going to, come down in that last regular season game. But I like Alabama and Ohio State. This is the same kind of national championship matchup we had last week. So let's get right into the prediction here. If this game were to happen, I would choose Alabama still just because of the offense. I mean, the offense, I think, is going to give them the win. I think Alabama's defense is a little bit better than Ohio State. I mean, both defenses are pretty even. Both teams are pretty even. Now, I know both teams, I know Ohio State had that blowout win against Rutgers, but, let's face it, Alabama beat a top 25 team. Ohio State did not. I mean, they were pretty much, playing an easy win there. So Alabama had the big win there in the top 25 matchup. And Alabama proved to be like a #1 team in that fourth quarter. They pulled away from Arkansas. But this is how my college football playoff bracket stands and the top 4 teams stand. I mean, I could see, these teams, if these games were to happen. Georgia, though, has got a couple weeks to prepare. They have to, get better as the season goes on. Michigan, perhaps their offense starts to click in a little bit. And then Alabama and Ohio State are pretty similar. The offense has just got to click in each and every single game. But let me guys know what you think about these top 4 standings. Do you agree or disagree? And stay tuned here for more on the Lucas Ross Sports Channel.